Bertemu kembali di Niaga AWANI dan pada 11 Oktober ini, Astro AWANI akan membawakan perbincangan dan analisis belanjawan kedua kerajaan Pakatan Harapan. Dan menjelang tarikh tersebut, kami ingin melihat apakah pendekatan baru dan meninjau harapan pelbagai pihak daripada pakar kepada orang ramai terhadap Belanjawan 2020 ini. Dan pada pagi ini, kami akan bersama dengan Ketua Pakar Ekonomi IQI Juwai Shan Said yang ketika ini berada di Dubai untuk melihat dari sudut makro bagaimanakah dia ingin melihat kepada Belanjawan 2020. Shan, thank you for being with us. We have discussed many micro sentiments on the ground, but macro-wise, how do you think the government will shape Budget 2020?
In my opinion, it will be people-centric, growth-focused and confidence-driven budget. Government would continue to maneuver through prudent monetary policy to maintain economic trajectory, which bolsters business sentiments on the ground. Government will bring about structural and integrated reforms to pass on the benefits to the masses in general. Stronger balance sheet, solid fiscal side and healthy current account surplus would be on the government's agenda. General theme would be to maintain solid macro fundamentals to keep Malaysia on the global investors' radar in the long run. GDP growth forecasts would be between 4.4 and 4.9 in 2020. Price inflation to remain stable under 2% and manageable budget deficit. Discount rate to hover around 2.5 to 3%.
Now, Shan, those would be your expectations, but what new changes do you hope to see to ensure better delivery and implementation in the budget?
I think it won't be an easy budget taking into account the global economic outlook, which is quite fragile, and the financial fragilities are going out of the roof, especially in global economy. The changes I would expect that government would provide subsidies in the oil sector. They would provide support to many industries to make sure that the economy continues to stay on growth path, which is very important. And nowadays, the most important thing for many governments, including Malaysia, is maintaining economic confidence. Economic confidence brings about more investment and more FDI, because global investors are looking at those economies where economic confidence is high, where governments are politically stable and they can ensure the timely and strong implementation of economic and structural reforms so that they remain on the growth path. So I think the government will be totally committed in maintaining economic confidence and to maintain and to bring about structural reforms so that the economy.
Now, I think Budget 2019 was about being prudent, right? So do you think 2020, the budget will have the same core value? What can we expect?
I think 2020 budget will have a similar view that the government wants to maintain prudent macro outlook so that the economy stays on the growth trajectory. It is not easy taking into account that there are a lot of external factors that are moving quite sharply, and whenever you have sharp movement in global economy where systematic risk and geopolitical risk are unpredictable, it's very difficult for any government to come out with a budget that can give a positive and solid outlook. However, having said that, the biggest advantage that the Malaysian government has is right now Malaysia is aligned with Belt and Road. So if you're aligned with Belt and Road, the investors, the global investors and global players, they view that very favorably. And secondly, Malaysia's geography. So geographical significance and part of Belt and Road gives an added advantage, and that gives a boost to government to come out with a budget that is in line with market expectation so that it meets the market requirement and meet the investors' sentiment.
Shan, I think it's safe to say that we're seeing a lot of uncertainties in the global economy. So how do you think the budget, how will the budget 2020 create a solid foundation so that growth can continue?
Yes, the financial fragilities, trade war, election in US, geopolitical risk, sharp movement in oil and gold prices are making investors nervous. We have also seen sharp movements in equity markets. A lot of players and investors have lost money in equity markets in 2018 and 2019. And we have seen a sharp movement in the currency market. And as you know, most of the investors, they don't really hedge themselves against currency market risk. And when currency market risk goes deep into the bond in the equity markets, it can take investors off guard. So I think right now the financial fragilities and the uncertainties and the volatilities and chaos are giving a new shape to the market. Investors are not certain. You have Brexit deadline coming up on 31st October. That is creating a huge stalemate in investors' confidence. So I think if Malaysian government can maintain economic confidence deep into the bond in the equity markets, it can take investors off guard. So I think right now the financial fragilities and the uncertainties and the volatilities and chaos are giving a new shape to the market. Investors are not certain. You have Brexit deadline coming up on 31st October. That is creating a huge stalemate in investors' confidence. So I think if Malaysian government can maintain economic confidence and it can send a positive signal to market forces so that on the ground sentiments are optimistic, and we at IQI.
Now, Shan, this isn't just any budget, right? This is budget 2020, and this year is ingrained in the minds of Malaysians to be the year. So what do you think should be the wow factor, both in terms of macro and microeconomy, as we move into that year?
The macro and the micro factors in 2020. I think if government can maintain the growth story between 4.4 and 4.9, we are talking about the average. If they can maintain a 5% GDP growth for next year, that would be remarkable. And if they keep the inflation down under 2% or 2.5, that could be a wow factor. That could be great. There are three variables. How do you gauge the economy? If your GDP is greater than your inflation rate, and what is GDP? GDP is your income level. If your income is higher than your inflation rate, if GDP, your income is higher than your discount rate. What is discount rate? The cost of doing business. And if your GDP, the income is higher than your budget deficit, that is the performance of the government, then the economy would remain on the growth path, and it would give positive signal to all industries. And investors nowadays, they are looking at these variables very closely. And this is a very quick, easy, and smart way of looking at the economy, that you see how the income levels are growing in the last 2 to 3 years. So in the last 2 to 3 years, 5 years, what I have witnessed at IQI, we have shared with our valued and sophisticated investors, that as long as GDP, your income level is higher than against all these variables, the economy will continue to be on the upsurge, and it will keep all the industry, especially the rail trade industry, in the growth mode. And that's why real estate has become the new global currency. And Malaysia is one of those favorite and favorable destination for many investors from Japan, Korea, China, Europe, and US who are looking at Malaysia from a long-term perspective. So I think the macro factor would be that to keep the economy and the income level on the higher side, that would be good for the masses and people at the macro level. Thank you very much.
Alright, thank you so much Shan. Terima kasih kepada Shan Said, Ketua Pakar Ekonomi IQI Juai, dan saya kira itu saja perkongsian saya di Niaga Awani jam ini. Kita jumpa lagi. Saya Nala Huda. Salam hormat.